Hello, this is Nicholas Tanek from YourKinkyFriends.com. I have a wonderful guest tonight. We're going to talk about rope. We're going to talk about rope. We're going to talk about all kinds of rope and suspension, and we're going to talk about trannies in trouble. If you don't know what that is, you will, and you'll like it. And we're gonna talk about a lot. Please welcome. It's an absolute honor to have as my guest Delilah Naughty, aka Blackfish. Say hi.
Hi. Hi, everyone.
Hi. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
So thank you for having me on your show. My name is Delilah Naughty, as you said. I also go by DK or Blackfish. Currently, I'm a rope top. I've been learning shibari for about 3 years after practicing kind of a Western style rope for several years, for over 10 or 15 years. And I've been pursuing this rope path with the strong, vigorous fervor because I'm very much obsessed with bondage and I like practicing it because it's a very strong human connection. And so this is what I do as a lifestyle. So.
Awesome. Wonderful. And all right. I always like to start the interviews off with first time coming out as a kinky person. We'll talk about the being gender fluid in a while, but just coming out as kinky. The first time you were kinky, and like I guess we'd say proud of it or experience, was it personal, like with just one other person? Was it at a party? Was it at a munch? Was it at a dungeon? What was it?
Right. That's a really good question. So that really goes back to the roots of who I am. A long time ago, I'm not going to give away my age, but I saw a famous mistress at a domination house here in Los Angeles, and I started playing with her. And so I became very involved with the scene slowly, having practice with her. And I started doing photographs for her for magazines back in the day when they used to publish them like that, and not so much on the web. And so really my first outing came out with me being published with her as a sort of bondage model, just being someone in the background and her posing as a dominatrix. So those really my first roots of like when I came out as like a kinky person.
So you were tying up, or you were tying someone up?
No, I started out as a total bottom. Like I got tied up. Yeah, so I mean, she tied me up, and then we'd do a photo shoot, and I'd be behind her, and you couldn't really tell who I was because at the time I was a lot more concerned about like my persona and like how I present myself in the public. But you can tell, obviously, that's all changed. Mm-hmm. But that really got me involved into like this kind of cross-dressing bondage kind of scenario.
Yeah,
that's when I got out.
It's hot. We'll talk more about that. So, but one thing I am curious about. Okay, so you started out as a bottom, and now you consider yourself a top. Yes. So, in just like the kink rabbit hole, the kinks and fetishes, the rabbit hole goes deep. So, How did that happen? What made you kind of switch from being a bottom to a top?
Well, I mean, this is a really good question. I mean, you could look at it from, if you just looked at me now as a top, it doesn't mean that I'm not necessarily a bottom. I think if you find the right person for me, I would definitely switch because I like bondage. But how I got there was I started as a bondage model for photography for a mistress. And then the photos became kind of well-liked, and I gave my photos to some magazines and they kind of liked it. And so I started this journey where I would do posing as this model, but I needed somebody to help me do this. So I ended up meeting Sandra Gibbons from Trannies in Trouble. And we did the exchange where I would tie her up and she would tie me up and we'd do photographs. And it was like a current, sharing program very early on. So I started getting my roots in tying. And if you go really back when I was a child, I mean, I like tying up people too. So it was a natural thing for me to try to learn how to tie and be tied at the same time. So that's kind of how it started. But the real change in me came around 2015. I went to Germany, BoundCon, and which was like a load of fun. And my eyes opened up. I saw so many different scenes. I saw a lot of rope, what was going on, and I realized that there was just a huge community about bondage. And it wasn't until about like 6 months or 8 months later when a famous rigger came into town from Japan, Hajime Kanoko, and he was doing a performance. And I saw that I was just amazed by it. And that's what I wanted to do, So I was like, I got really just head on into like learning shibari because it was attractive, because it's cool, because I wanted to be involved in the scene and I wanted to be really active. Not so much because I wanted to be tied. I love being tied, but I wanted to do the tying, and it just became like an obsession. That's a real quick story, but that's kind of how it happened.
No, that's great. It's a great answer. Okay, Tangle Blue just texted me a message. She wants to know, do you have a favorite kind of knot or a favorite kind of tie, like a prawn tie?
Prawn tie. Well, a favorite kind of tie. Well, currently my ties are a little kind of crazy. I love, if there's a favorite tie, like I guess what I think is most attractive on someone is like the arms behind the back, an A-frame type of tie. Some people would consider a strappado tie, but strappado has to do with that kind of tie and then a rope pulling them back. But really the A-frame, like you see in traditional kind of Western style rope, I find that very attractive. And also very high hands tie. If someone's hands are tied very high and their elbows are in, that's very pretty too. So those are my two favorite type of ties.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I can dig that.
And they're both very hard on people.
Yeah. Especially like if you could see your hands, you can move them and see them.
Hands are really important. Hands are really important.
What's more, what do you like better? Do you like, or what would you say more is the cosmetic aspect of being, in rope, or the actual, what's the word I'm looking for?
Like the tying part of it.
Yeah, the constraint of it.
Yeah. So are you asking me like, which one do I like this? Do I like to see
them
tied, or do I like to tie them?
Is that what do you like more? Do you like the visual aspect of someone being tied up, or the actual constraint of it?
Yeah. So those are like two different things. So like I love to see someone tied. It's very erotic to me. That's how I got into this. I think bondage is eroticism, and I get to practice it. I love to see someone tied and gagged, bound, moving around. But my journey right now as a top has been mainly about tying somebody and employing my rope on them as a type of like human energy exchange. And it's been an interesting journey over the last 3 years, because I'm trying to actually figure this out about like why I do that. And it really has to do with like a type of companionship. So by me tying somebody, I really get a type of energy from them. I get a response, and I get almost a high off of that. It's not so much sexual, but it's just very intimate type of play between two people. So if that's it, that's what driving me is to tie someone.
It's a form of trust. Like I was talking about before, it's putting the bond in bondage. It's a form of trust, definitely. Now, someone asked me to ask you, what about sensitive skin? What for someone who likes rope and wants to be tied up, but they have very, very sensitive skin? Do you have any advice for that?
Well, I mean, I guess it depends on like what you're trying to do with the rope too. There's all kinds of rope out there. If you're trying to do something more with like shibari, where you're going to have an intricate tie that's going to kind of have some kind of function to it, I would use something like hemp, because that is soft for the skin, and it still can kind of work with the type of shibari or Japanese bondage. But I really like to use jute, and if it's well conditioned and worked in, I think someone with sensitive skin could still deal with that. An untreated jute, though, would be too difficult on someone's skin, because sometimes it could be very rough and feel almost coarse. But there's a purpose behind all of that. I try not to use cotton rope. I use cotton rope if I'm tying somebody for a pretty picture or something that's very appealing to the eye. So that's where cotton rope is really good for, but not so much for suspension. Yeah.
Okay. So, all right. Let's say I'm a newbie. I'm fascinated with rope, but know nothing about it. Let's say I've never been tied up. Hypothetically,
Yeah.
I've been tied up. I've tied people. But let's say hypothetically, I'm brand new. I'm interested. What advice would you give to me? What advice would you give to somebody who's new to rope?
New to rope. Okay. So rope is like the real big thing right now in the whole fetish scene. It's like it's exploding. And if you haven't noticed, it probably really has already gone supernova. So there's a lot of interest in rope. A lot of people are coming out and they want to try it. They see suspension and they want to try that. Someone who's really getting into rope for the first time, I encourage them to try to do some own education online and start trying to find groups around the area where they can kind of learn what rope basics are. There are a lot of groups around the country that teach rope. They're very introductory stuff. So you either want to tie or if you want to be tied up, those are really good venues to learn from people that are in a safe environment and that you're going to feel comfortable with. Because as you said, it is a form of trust. It's a very deep trust to have someone tie you or you tie somebody else, especially because it's a very big commitment to someone's safety. So, I mean, those kind of things, there's a lot of education materials out there and they're probably, and if not, then, I would say just try to find things online and learn the very basic stuff.
Okay. Now, suspension. Suspension is something that is always fascinating for me. Can be a little dangerous. So what are some steps you take to make it a safe, I guess, form of suspension?
Right. So like I've only been doing suspension for a few years. I just dived into Shibari and I started taking a lot of intensive courses with very well-known, very responsible masters and some mistresses that are just really good at this. And the first thing I wanted to learn as doing these courses was how to do a proper tie. So like when it goes into suspension, you really have to have a very basics down in order to do something like suspension. And I don't want to like say that I can't do suspension. I gave you some of the examples on my photos of what I do. So I do suspension now. And as a new person in Shibari, I take a lot of precautions. I make sure that I have a lot of uplines on somebody, which are the ropes that go up to my suspension rig behind me and it's supporting them. I may have 1 or 2 uplines or sometimes 4. I'll have redundancies in those so that if there's potentially an issue, I can have one upline keeping them safe and versus the other and let them down. And, I guess more importantly, if I circle back to suspension, when I tie somebody in suspension, it's usually with somebody that's kind of has the experience in it, either with me or they've had a lot of experience with other people. Because a lot of people want to do suspension and they don't realize how dangerous it really is. So I have to, and I've got real kind of really serious about vetting who I tie because, you don't want an accident. You want to make sure that everybody goes into this together knowing what they're doing. So that's probably the number one thing. I said, I want to make sure who I tie is aware and has some experience when it goes into suspension.
Interesting. Okay. Now, you were talking that rope is getting extremely popular. I mean, it's always been, in my opinion, it's always been something I've always been fascinated with, and something in the community, it's always been very popular. Why do you think that is? Why do you think specifically rope? I'm not talking about buckles or belts or cuffs or handcuffs or but rope specifically. What is it about rope that you think fascinates so many kinky people?
Well, I think why is it? Yeah, rope has always been around. There's always been this Western style rope, but really the Shibari, the Japanese type of bondage, has really taken off in the last few years. I would say since, I don't know, I'm just throwing out a number, 2010 or something. It slowly started building, and it's it's come about because people have gotten more interested in what the Asian style of rope is, and they see the suspension that some of the artists are doing in Japan, and I think people find it very sexy. They find it very interesting. They think it's pretty cool. And I think, slowly people started getting into this, and because it was a kink, or because they really want to be more involved in tying people. So in some way, I don't know, I can't put my finger on when it started. I think I got into it now like 3 years ago, when it's already exploded. And there, when I started looking around and started looking for, Japanese and shibari bondage, it was everywhere. It's all over the place.
Sometimes it's the sound it makes, when it, like the sound of it going against your skin,
Yeah. It makes a great sound.
It does.
What makes a really good sound is when you're tying somebody and the rope is like, they're about 25 feet in length or so, and it falls on the ground. You hear this sound, and it's very common, like just the ends of it falling on the ground. There's all kinds of sounds with rope that come into it. That stretchy sound, that sound almost like, you hear the rope stretching on a boat. You actually get that sometimes when you're tying somebody. You hear this kind of creaking from the fibers.
I was, this is going to sound so crazy. I was watching Jaws, like this weekend, and there's that, they're tying the rope around the, what's it called, the rudder or something like that in the back, and it goes like, and you hear it, and Roy Schneider gets stuck against it, and you're like, and hearing it, I'm looking like that's supposed to be like scary and edgy and unnerving, and I'm like, damn, that sounds sexy as fuck.
Yeah, I know that's a good scene.
So okay, one of the people from Your Kinky Friends, Fornication, sent me a couple questions to ask you. What is the most common mistake people make in rope play?
In rope play, I guess a common mistake, I guess it would just be the basics of the tie. And, and I should temper all of this too. Like I do practice shibari. I'm a student of shibari. I'm in no way a master of shibari. So what I'm talking about right now is really just my experience with it as a lifestyle top. So I just want to temper that so everyone doesn't think I'm an authority on it. There are a lot of people out there who are really good, and I'm learning from them, and I'm a student of many, many masters. So the most common thing I think what people get into is probably just jumping into it too fast. I think that they want to get tied up. They think it's sexy. I hear people in some of these spaces, these dungeons where people go and practice in a safe environment, and they want to be suspended, and if I just talk about suspension, a lot of people just want to like feel this. And there's a strong movement within our community to really talk about the dangers of shibari and to talk about what's needed in negotiation and communication. So I think probably one of the most, the things that people really need to do when they get into rope is to really start to educate themselves and start to learn, what are the do's and don'ts and the dangers, and, and also what could be great about it,
Okay.
Right. Yeah. So like I want to make sure that, what I'm conveying is that this is an edge type of play. What the scene is that there's many avenues. There's cuffs that you're talking about. There's, there's handcuffs, all that stuff. It could all be dangerous in a certain sense, but with rope, and in particular with suspension, you're putting a lot of force on somebody, and there's a lot of potential for stress on their body, which results in a strain, and they could end up seriously injured. So, this kind of thing with rope and people getting into it, it's good for them to, like explore it, love it, but like take the time to try to educate yourself too with groups out there. Yeah.
So that goes to my next question. Fornication, who's like I said, part of Your Kinky Friend, she wanted to know what's the best way to learn about rope play regarding nerves and joints.
Oh, okay. So there are a few good websites out there, and there are articles on FetLife by some very well-known bottoms in the scene that really have like taken a lot of time to teach this kind of thing. One of them is Clover, She's a partner with Wicked Dave. She's written, I think, a book on this, and she talks about some of these nerve issues. And there are other websites out there. There's just good information on there. And I think one of them is called Cordis. And I may be butchering that name, but they actually talk about the nerve issues in rope. And this website's really good, Cordis. And maybe I could send something later to you on this.
Oh, yeah, please.
But they actually show images of someone tied, and then they show the nerves on someone's body, and when you're in a different tie, like a box tie or like a TK or the A-frame tie, and see where the ropes are on your nerves, so you can try to learn that. So there are resources out there, and I've been studying those a lot lately because it has helped me identify when I'm tying somebody and they're feeling something kind of weird. I can identify possibly what is going on and go straight to that point on the tie and try to relieve the pressure and actually stop that tingling or at least slow it down,
Okay. So personally, for you, coarse or smooth?
Coarse or smooth?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Rope.
Oh, my rope is coarse.
Okay.
My rope is jute. It's coarse. It's got a bit of a bite to it.
Okay.
It's not smooth. Smooth is like because I do suspension, I need something that's going to lock and hold the tie and maintain a tension once I do that. So it's a little coarse. Yeah. But I condition it so that someone can kind of feel like it feels good,
Oh, definitely. Definitely, without that. Okay, let's talk. You identify yourself as gender fluid. There are a lot of people who are just kind of new to labels, these definitions. So please define that just for us.
Okay, so I'm going to talk about like what I feel is gender fluid.
Yes, what you feel.
Yeah, because it's it may mean a lot to different people, but
Exactly.
for me, I just as a quick, I always like start from the beginning. I called myself a crossdresser at one time. And then at one time I thought, I called myself a trans because that was the identity of somebody who identified somewhat as a female, but was really male, and in the last few years, identities has really broadened, and gender fluid really fits me the best because I like to be able to switch modes or live in kind of ambiguous state. So gender fluid to me is being able to be Delilah on one day and then the next day not be Delilah. And so I'm able to go between the two roles of the binary system, male or female. Another thing is called non-binary, which is new to a lot of things, like states. You can get a driver's license that's considered non-binary. So that, if I'm identifying myself as Delilah one day or as my other persona on my driver's license, it says non-binary. So if someone does see me as non-binary, they're going to know that, I may have these male characteristics, but I'm outwardly presenting as a female. So it's a little, it's convoluted, but it just has to do with being able to switch kind of roles in terms of what your expression is in gender. Okay. So that's gender fluid. Yeah.
Great. So all right. So you come out as gender fluid. What was the response? Did friends, family, stuff like that? How did everyone respond to it?
Well, that's a real interesting question, right? So my family knows, they know that I'm Delilah. They've seen me, in my past life, I got married, I was wearing a wedding dress, and my whole family saw that, and they kind of realized who I really was, not necessarily as Delilah, but I was this person who outwardly wanted to be presented as a female. So my family took it okay. Other people take it okay. They just kind of slowly didn't talk, they accepted it, but didn't really talk about it, and they still kind of don't. But I have come out even, at my day job at work, one day I said, I'm just you know, it was on Halloween, but I said, hey, I'm non-binary. You know, a lot of people just didn't even know what that was, you know, but
Mhm.
that was just a couple years ago. People are I think they're accepting it. Like in California, it's a little bit easier, maybe in other parts of the country. And, you know,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
just, it's a very new thing to people.
Oh, okay. So my dom just texted me, Miss Melissa. She said because you love rope so much, she goes, tell her how we used her rope, to move her mattress, and they were wondering why she had 40 feet plus more rope in her bedroom. so so yeah, rope could be good just the bondage rope could be good for other things as well, like moving mattresses.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
Oh, yeah. Or tying down a Christmas tree.
let's talk about personal relationship dynamics. Are you in a relationship right now?
I have a relationship with
Okay,
somebody, you know, a
wonderful,
partner, when someone is my partner. Yeah.
perfect,
I mean,
wonderful.
but I
Well,
have relationships with other people that I play with too.
that's
So,
great too. Me
um,
too.
yeah,
Um,
that's an interesting thing too, because the whole world is like, you know, having polyamory like relationships. And,
oh
you
yeah,
know, I'm not polyamorous or anything like that, but I think my type of play with many different players that are consistent with me builds a type of relationship. And so I would say I have like relationships definitely with a few of my partners. It's not sexual. It has to deal with bondage.
okay.
Um,
So let me ask you this. I'm always curious about how kinky people meet. Because like after Lynn died, I was devastated and I thought I'd never meet someone who would understand me or accept me, with all my kinks and fetishes. So how do you meet these partners that you
right. Yeah. That's a really tough, you know, I mean, like everybody's very unique in the scene. You know, a lot of people, they like to dress, I don't know, like they'll wear like, you know, they could be a furry, you know, tied up or something, or, you know, you could play mommy daddy thing. How do you meet somebody that's like that? You know, it's, you know, you could go out and start to learn that there are other groups out there that kind of host small parties like Munches you mentioned earlier. Those are really good and they've become much more popular, and you could meet other people and possibly connect with other people in the scene. Fat Life is another good resource. I just met a couple the other night that said they actually met each other from Fat and they've been dating for 3 years. And, you know, someone wrote a poem and someone responded to it and they ended up connecting. I was really surprised by that. You know, or you may find, you know, a love, you know, through another means, you know, at a local dungeon or something like that. But the fetish scene is growing a lot, and there are a lot of like places that, you know, try to encourage a social outreach so people can, with their particular kink, you know, express it. You know, those
definitely.
are good ways.
So okay, now I'm into stuff that I never thought I'd be into. Um, the kink rabbit hole goes way, way, way deep. So, are there any new kinks or fetishes that you're not experienced with, or that you just started or that you want to try?
Yeah, I have like, you know, I've been exposed to a lot. I haven't really practiced a lot though. I have really just been focused on bondage. I do impact play. I do use my cane. I do like that a lot. I particularly deal with like psychological play while I'm tying somebody. It's a kind of form of domination. I have some understanding of what DOMs do, pro DOMs do, having a lot of experience with one. I've kind of employed that, and I've seen from that dominatrix side a lot of different things like a needle play or you know, sounding, or, you know, even other, you know, other stuff, cock and ball torture or something like that. That's a lot of that I don't do. But, you know, would I want to do that? Possibly, but I've really just so focused in on rope and bondage. I'm just too into that. It's all centered around this kind of like suspension and like also energy play and tying somebody. I do like to do impact play though. So I don't know. I'm really just so focused. I'm not like, this is
No,
all I want
great.
to.
You got to love what you do. That's what's most important.
Yeah.
All right, BDSM on a budget. Now, if you have the money, if anybody out there have the money, I support, um, high-end BDSM equipment, products, toys, outfits, everything like that. But not everybody has the money, you know. So, do you have one or two kind of BDSM life hacks for people who want to be kinky but just don't have it in their wallet?
Right, right. I guess, like if you want to do just kind of sensual rope play and tie up your partner, have sexy fun rope time, you could easily just buy some nice rope at Lowe's or Home Depot, your local hardware store. Get some cotton rope and use that to do some tying. I mean, it's not expensive. It could be cut if you had to cut it out, and you could just buy some more. So that's a really good way, just like on a budget for like bondage. Just go to the store and pick some different types of ropes. They got all kinds of stuff, but play with it, with the mindset of like, this is sexy time bondage. This is fun bondage for tying someone in the bed,
Sexy fun
tying
rope.
their,
Sexy
yeah,
fun rope time sounds like a great show. I would watch that. I would DVR that. I would save episodes.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's something I've learned too from like practicing with a lot of different people and learning. There's like there's lab time where you're doing employ a new tie, and then there's like energy work, and then there's like sexy time where they call it, where you're just tying somebody up and making them feel good because there's an intent behind that, hence sexy time.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, recommendations, rapid fire recommendations, and they don't have to be kink or sex related or anything like that. Okay, so recommend a movie.
Recommend a movie?
Yeah.
Hey, God, you're killing me. I like Drive. I like Was it Drive or Driven? Drive.
Drive
I
with
think it's
Ryan
Drive.
Gosling.
Yeah, that one's really good. The
Yeah,
music is so good, great to play with.
Beats the shit out of people with a hammer.
Yeah, yeah, good playing music.
Recommend a book.
Oh, yeah. I can't pass on that one. I'm a professed non-reader of books.
Okay, recommend a song.
A song.
Yeah.
I'm really into a song by oh God, it's called Trampoline. It's very deep, dark. It's got like some nice tones to it. It's by you got to look it up. I think it's I can't remember her name right now, but it's called Trampoline.
Julian
That's
has a song called Trampoline. I don't think it's the same one though.
No, that's not the
one. All right, recommend a meal.
A meal. Well, I love. God, we get these questions. I think of all these different types of food. I really enjoy Mexican food.
Oh, I love Mexican.
Yeah. I mean, that's easy.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love that stuff.
Empanadas are good. I don't know if that's
recommend anything. Recommend something.
Well, I mean, look, I'm here to talk about rope, so I mean, I recommend exploring your kink side and finding a place to practice rope and learn it. I think it's a great thing. It's a great way to like connect with somebody.
Definitely.
I'm obsessed over it. That's all I ever think about next to my day job. So
I totally agree. All right. So now this is pretty much the final aspect before we get into the plugs and the marketing. This is the word association game. So I'm going to say a word or phrase. You say the first word or phrase that pops into your head. So if I say chastity, you may say lock. But let's say you're thinking of Mexican food and you're hungry, and if I say chastity and the first thing that comes to your head is empanada, that's fine too. There's no wrong answer. All right, that's rule number one. You literally say the first thing that pops in your head. No, don't overthink it. Okay.
Okay.
The second rule is we don't kink shame. So I'm going to say a bunch of kinks, and some of it I'm sure you're not going to be into. Instead of making fun of it or acting disgusted or whatever, just say not my thing.
Okay.
Okay. Then we have the jar. Tango Blue sent me this jar. Tangle Blue. I love you, Tangle Blue. Tangle Blue and I have a very, very absurd, weird sense of humor. She sent me a jar full of little pieces of paper, and I don't know what's on these things. I'm going to take these out. So everything I say is off the top of my head, and it's going to be kink related. And some of these are kink related. Some of them are absolute nonsense. I don't know what's going to go. All right?
Okay.
Ready to go?
Yeah, this is
Yeah.
new.
Yeah. Clear your mind. First thing off the top of your head. All right. Straight jackets.
I love them.
The Hitachi magic wand.
Oh, that's the best invention.
It really is.
It is. Hands down.
The wand.
The violet one. Fun.
Okay. Choking.
A pleasure.
Consensual, non-consensual.
Very cool.
All right. French maid outfits.
I love them. I have 2 for myself.
I've got 3 for myself too. I need a new one.
I haven't worn mine in years, but I keep them around.
Oh, I'd love to see it. The pegging.
Pegging. It's okay. Not my thing.
Fisting.
Fisting. Wow, that's kind of that's a journey. That is something I don't do.
The St. Anthony's cross.
That's it's useful.
All right. Butt plugs.
Okay. Butt plugs. What some girls really like those. Yeah, they do.
The daddy baby.
Very
girl.
popular.
Yes.
I'm sorry?
Very popular. The daddy baby girl dynamic.
Intriguing. Very intriguing.
Wax play.
Wax play. That's that's also fun. I like that. Yeah,
Okay.
wax play.
Fire play.
Now fire play. Wow, that's like pretty amazing stuff. You know, it's like showcase stuff.
All right. Needle play.
Needle play, interesting. I enjoy it. I've been through it a couple times, and I always like it.
Latex.
Latex, very pretty on the right body. Doesn't look good on me. I hate it.
It's great.
Europeans love it.
They do. They really do.
When I went to BoundCon, we went to this event, and so everybody was wearing latex or PVC, and here I was wearing a corset, and I was like totally like this American dom, and I just totally stood out.
Okay, so waterboarding.
Waterboarding. I try it.
Splashing.
No, that's definitely not for me. If I understand what splashing is.
No, splashing is like food, like rubbing food all over.
No, that's pretty cool too. I like that. Yeah, I just saw Dom do that over at Bar Sinister last night, and she shoved like a bunch of cake in my face, which was a total pleasure.
All right, we're going in the jar.
Okay.
All right. Beg.
Am I supposed to do that?
No.
What am I supposed to do?
It's the word association.
Oh, okay. Submissive.
Okay.
I see.
All right. Kitten.
Okay. Kitten. A bottom. A rope bottom.
Vulva.
Vulva. Oh, that's like sexy rope time.
All right. Goblin.
Goblin. I don't know. Halloween.
All right. Yeah. Spit.
Spit.
Degrading. Cock.
Oh, cock. That's an a-hole.
All right. Water sports.
Water sports are interesting. Um, I don't do that, but I have been through it a couple of times.
Okay. And finally, we've come to the end. Scat.
Oh, yeah, no,
Okay.
not definitely
No
way beyond
worries.
my
All right.
limits.
Oh my God. Delilah Naughty, aka Blackfish, you've been an absolute pleasure to talk to. Please take this time to promote anything you want to promote, social media, Twitter, Instagram, everything. Everything's going to be on your page, but still, go.
Okay, so you can find me on Instagram. It's DK_Blackfish or Blackfish Ropeworks on Instagram, where I showcase a lot of my rope. It is my portfolio, so please take a look at those and follow me there. I'm also new on Ello. It's ELLO, same kind of handles. Blackfish Ropeworks, that's a new one. A lot of people are moving to that because they're concerned about censorship. I'm also on Twitter at Delilah Naughty. I don't really use it too much. And then you can find me here and there on other sites, you know, at my web portal, delilahnaughty.co. And, you know, if you just do a search on me, you can find other things. Oh, that's good. That's my plug.
Okay, great. That's awesome. It's like seriously, that's awesome. Okay, so please, after we're done, please stay on the line. I'd like to talk with you just for about a minute. And
Okay.
yeah, you can find me at yourkinkyfriends.com. You can find me on Facebook at Nicholas Tanek. You can find me on Twitter at Nicholas Tanek. And then there's Friends at Friends Kinky on Instagram and Twitter as well. We have a Discord chat group. So get on that. It's great. And YKF is a secret group on Facebook as well. So it's getting late, my friends.
Okay.
My dom is calling me. Remember the cardinal rule. Be cool, be kind, keep an open mind. Take care. Have a great night.